Hi, yeah, I'm Mark, doing another live stream about something different this time. Um, I do these on my own, they're not edited, so you get everything, mistakes and all. But they're about subjects that I'm pretty fanatical about, to be honest. And, whether you think that or not, that is down to you. But I'd like to get this information out there. Today, I'd like to talk about I suppose it's about climate control. I suppose it's about everything, really. It encumbers every part of human life, our resources, our, our right to live, everything. And I believe it's the greatest danger to human civilization as we know it today, and that's overpopulation. The population of this planet is growing beyond what it can handle. I mean, if you haven't noticed that or haven't realized that so far, then you must have been living under a rock for the last 50 years, because it took all 200,000 years of human history for the population of this planet to reach 1 billion, and in the last 200 years we're now at 8 billion. Where are we going to be in another 20 years, 30 years, 40 years? I mean, this net carbon zero is ridiculous. It's never going to happen. If we had all the time until the sun burned out, we'd never get net carbon zero. It's too complicated. It's too much interdimensional play between different countries that don't get along, countries that hate each other. We don't have to like each other, to share ideas, share research, but we just can't seem to stop fighting amongst ourselves. Unless we can do that, we're never going to get anywhere. I'm not talking about population control like China tried to do it back in the 70s, all that one parent, one child per family, the end always justifies the means kind of thing, or militant groups going out snatching babies. I'm talking about a multi-generational effort that's going to take a lot of years. But if we don't get something down, if we don't get some ideas down now and start letting people know about it, I mean, it doesn't even get talked about. Climate change, all that stuff, it gets the headlines, it gets the column inches, but the population control, nobody wants to talk about it. I've had a lot of negative things said about me because of it, but I don't care. It's it's the only way forward that I see. Or are we just going to keep multiplying and multiplying until the world collapses under its own weight? Because that's what's going to happen. I'm not talking about population control, with down to demographics due to race, religion, or anything like that. I'm just talking about in general. It needs to be done by governments that are it needs to be voted in by a democracy. It needs to be run by governments transparently. My God, it should be a voluntary issue. Don't have 8 children, because that's not really sustainable. Maybe just have 2. I just find it, in this day and age, that we can't have an open conversation about this without people screaming and shouting about their human rights, that are being breached and all this kind of stuff. But when is it going to stop? At least get a plan in place. At least get some information out there. Let's start. Let's make a start. We don't have to actually act on it yet. Let's make a start and put it to the people. Let the people decide what they want to do. Do you all want to die someday of malnutrition because we've run out of food sources, and all our resources on Earth are finite. We have a shelf life on this planet, and just how long that shelf life is depends on how far we can stretch the resources that we have, because a species cannot survive beyond its resources. Once the resources are gone, the population will start to dwindle, and we will all die out. Eventually, our population will keep going up and up and up and up and up until we hit the wall, and then it will go down and down and down extremely fast. Nature will take care of it in the end, and nature kills indiscriminately. If we do not, nature needs balance. It needs a balance to survive, and we have upset that balance. We're like a cancer of this planet. Every other species on this planet is in decline. It's endangered. It's extinct, apart from one, us. And why is that? Because we've taken total control of everything. We're building on every piece of land that we can find, every greenery. You know, we're not even digging holes to mine anymore. In America, they're in Virginia, they're doing mountaintop mining, where they basically pick a mountain, they remove every shred of greenery, every tree, every bit of habitation on it, and they cut the mountain down to get to the coal seams or whatever it is they're mining for inside. They've done in Virginia, there's over 500 of these that have been done so far. That's just in one state. It's ridiculous. And places like, Pakistan, India, Africa, that have got the big numbers, these big, and these big continents, these big countries that have got the numbers, they're starving. Children are dying of malnutrition in the street. They don't have health care. They don't have access to proper hygiene, which is a danger because it spreads diseases. And the more of us there are, the easier and faster diseases and viruses will spread. I think we've seen evidence of that recently. Again, if you haven't, you've been living under a rock for the last 3 years. But we need some neutrality here. How can we move forward with this? Net carbon zero is a joke. It's never ever going to happen. And if we can bring down the population, we're going to bring down, the whole effect that our population has on this planet. Because at the minute, we are the only species on this planet that is poisoning the atmosphere, that's destroying the ozone layer, that's bringing, these greenhouse gases. It's us. It's no one else. It's just us doing it. And there are no feasible solutions out there. It's not going to be fixed by one person, by one single idea. It's going to take hundreds, thousands of ideas from different people in different countries, all working together. But we're so pathologically mistrustful of each other. Some of them can't even be in the same room together without arguing. We've got wars exploding all over the place. We're virtually in a world war. Again, we're almost in World War III. We're a stone's throw from it. We're fighting proxy wars again, like we did back in Afghanistan, the Russians and then the Mujahideen. And, it's just never ending. Vietnam was another one. We've got North Korea threatening to shoot nuclear weapons everywhere. And he's just a big child. Whenever the attention is on something else, like, the war in Ukraine or this war in the Middle East, he has to launch a missile into the, South China Sea or somewhere like that, just so people don't forget about him. So, I'm still here. Don't forget about me kind of thing. Not let me run my country. People are dying in North Korea just trying to smuggle out information about how hard it is there. It's just a militarized country, and that's that's their basic. That's the basic workload of the country. It's militarized. Everything is for the military, and it's communist. Communism never works. It might look good. It might look good on paper, as when you write it down, it's good for the poor people, break the wealth divide and all that kind of stuff. But it never works out that way, because it always ends up with a dictatorship at the top with all the power. And then once they've seized power, they take away all the opposing parties, have them arrested, have them shot, have them whatever. I don't know. But, population growth is the greatest fundamental threat to human life that there ever has been. If we're not careful, we're gonna end up going the way of the dinosaurs. Well, we will anyway, eventually. It's just a matter of time. What kind of world do you want to leave behind for your children or their children? Do you not care? because it all stems on that. It all stems on the sacrifices you're prepared to make today for a world you will never see or you will never be a part of. You know, are you willing to make sacrifices so your children can have a future and have a life? Because if we do not start putting plans in place today, it's going to be too late. It could already be too late. I mean, a third of this world live no better lives than their ancestors did 4,000 years ago. And it's just crazy. It's clear to me when I look at it and I think, okay, maybe I'm the wrong one. Maybe I'm the one that's got all the wrong information. Maybe I'm the one that's seeing it all wrong. You know, maybe sending a $10 billion satellite into space telescope was the right thing to do, rather than spend 10 billion on, say, you know, just saving a few kids, starving kids in Africa. You know, what do they matter? Who cares? You know, it's about prestige. It's about what people think we've got. We've all got to have the greatest iPhones, and we've all got to, you know, have this and that. Advertising is one of the great evils, I think, because it makes you want things you don't need. And the more things that we need and the more things that we have, the more resources are being used up. It's crazy. It's beyond crazy, you know. And why does nobody mention it? I keep up with the news, current affairs and all that all the time. The only person I've ever heard mention overpopulation, anyone of any account anyway, was Bill Gates. Mentioned it on stage once. He got heckled for it and he got slated for it, but he's the only person I've ever heard mention it. It doesn't get mentioned. It should be front page news every day. It should have column inches. It shouldn't be just left to, you know, I say living room writers like myself. I mean, I have 2 books published on Amazon. If you care to read any of my stuff, you may think I'm just a fanatical idiot or whatever, but I ask you, look into it. You know, if you don't believe the words I say, then look into it for yourself. Read up for yourself. Don't take anything at face value. Question everything. And I truly mean that. Question everything. Even what I'm telling you now. Question it all. Look it up for yourself. Don't just believe the first thing that pops up on MSN and think, oh, that's got to be true. Because believe me, it isn't. There's a lot of crap out there. There's a lot of fake news out there. But if we don't put in some plans for the growth of our population, I mean, even the island of Guernsey, okay, it's governed by England, but they're a small island, and they know they're a small island, and they regulate the amount of people that can live on that island based on the properties available and that kind of stuff. They even regulate it, the demographics, like traders. So, you know, there's a certain amount of tradesmen that do this, tradesmen that do that. You know, nothing. No, I'm not talking about color and race, religion, all that kind of stuff. But they do that because they know they are a small island, and it wouldn't take much to overwhelm them. And then they would have to rely on outside sources to bring in most of their stuff because they can't do it themselves. We in the UK, we are. I don't see the difference. We are an island. Okay, we export, you know, stuff gets exported all over the world on these giant container ships. But, you know, imagine if all that stopped, how would we sustain ourselves? You know, we're at what, 67 million people live here in this country at the moment, in the UK. You know, what if it was 167 million? You couldn't even imagine. But that's where it's going to be because no one's doing anything about it. No one's even talking about it. No, let's get the discussion going. Let's get the debate going. Let's get it in talk. Let's get Parliament talking about it. Prime Minister's question time. You know, it's not going to be the most popular idea. It never was going to be, but it's an idea, and it's an idea that is going to solve a lot of the world's problems. Like I say, it's going to be a multi-generational issue, but eventually, if we can start bringing down the numbers, we're going to have our resources are going to last longer. You know, everything, even the fossil water that has been tapped for aquifers and drilling holes for water and stuff like that, they're running dry. They're non-replenishable. They're non-replenishable. You cannot get, once they're gone, they're gone. You can even see the ground sinking, where all the water that was under there is disappearing. Same with the oil, you know, and it's what more can I say? That's my bit. Overpopulation. Think about it.